And also, again, just like yesterday, please, just a reminder, please put down your questions in Slido. If you follow me, I'll actually bring everyone to me real quick. If you see the line keynote Miriam Sasse, and you on that line, you have these two green bubbles saying enter your questions here. There is a link to Slido there. If you click on that link, you'll be taken to Slido where you can enter your questions. And you can also vote for questions that have already been raised by someone else, right? So during the Q&A after the speech, we will start with the most popular question and then go down the list. All right. Okay. A few words about our keynote speaker today, Dr. Miriam Sasse. So her CV is impressive, to say the least. She works as a chapter lead of Agile Transformation in an international media group. She's a regional group leader at GPM, as well as lecturer at different universities. And she's considered as an expert on the topics of agility, resilience, organizational design, and transformation. In a charming and endearing way, she challenges classical structures and thinking to make it clear that the new world is people and customer centric. At various engagements, she has talked about how leadership and organizational design must be rethought to encourage employee participation, provoke talent, and create agile and resilient companies. We are fortunate enough to have her here with us today, so let's welcome Miriam on stage. Florian, could you please do your magic? And welcome, Miriam. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So I'm so overwhelmed now. Shah, Eva, thank you for the very, very nice introduction. Wow. Hello, everybody. I want to have a closer look at this little thingy over here. Do you know what it is? Please use the chat to interact with me. This is a Bouyon cube or stock cube or brew cube. Depends on where you are in the world, how you call it. And what do a Bouyon cube and an Agile Transformation have in common? Any idea? I think it's a very exciting question, actually. So let's collect properties of stock cubes and approach the question, right? So what makes a stock cube for you? Feel free to write what comes to your mind in the chat. So yeah, it's small, right? You don't know what's inside, actually. You don't know. It's compressed, right? It's very compact ingredients. It's small but nice. And maybe there are some childhood memories coming up. And now, in contrast, we think of the best food we once ate. The best food we once ate. So maybe it was home cooked. Maybe it was exceptionally seasoned, cooked with really good ingredients. Maybe we were in good company. Maybe we were fascinated by how to cook such good food. Maybe we were delighted with the chef, and said something like, kudos to the chef, terrific food. A good agile transformation is like an excellent home-cooked meal. And we are in awe of good food, just like we are in awe of good agile transformations, right? So just like with good food, no one says you have to use this bouillon cube, regardless of what you are cooking. So with a good agile transformation, no one comes and says you have to do Scrum on your team, regardless of what kind of team you have, right? So if we have this bouillon cube, right, we will continue comparing it with a bouillon cube. So you can find everywhere agile transformation is this 3 steps, right? We show you how to implement Scrum anywhere in 3 easy steps. Here is your agile checklist, right? Wonderful. But actually, that's not so easy, right? So it's easy when you throw a stock cube into clear boiling water. Put the seasoning of the stock cube is not necessarily suitable when there are already vegetables and spices in the soup, right? So it's the same in your team. We don't know from the outside what ingredients is missing. So to prescribe Scrum across the board, we are usually wrong, right? The team operates within the existing structure of the organization and has to meet the needs of the customers. So in this talk, I would like to share more about past agile transformations that I have experienced. And I would like to introduce you to the open space agility approach by Daniel Mazik. Maybe you already have this or this book on your bookshelf, right? This is the English version. It's a little bit thinner than the German version because we wrote additionally half of the book with information about some practice approaches, some information we collected while implementing open space agility, while going through different open spaces at different companies in the last 5 years. So this is, of course, not a magic bullet either, but an approach that includes the most important spice of an agile transformation. And this is opt-in participation. Then I brought you 3 examples of implementation in different companies. And afterwards, I report on the implementation in the company where I myself am currently employed as an agile coach. And you will notice, or you have probably already noticed, that I love using metaphors. And why I'm such a big fan of metaphors and what coaching technique is behind it, I will tell you at the end of my talk, if you want to hear it. So I have experienced several agile transformations, and the worst is always when the agile transformation is forced on you, right? In the form, you have to transform now, you have to apply this model, this scheme now, you have to do Scrum, and you have to do Kanban, and you have to do design thinking, and you have to do SAFe, right? And why is that? The 16 pages of the Scrum guide, they are very easy to read, but however, implementing it within the existing company structure is so difficult that hundreds of people around the world are writing books about it, right? And in a company where I used to work, there was a very, very tight rollout plan, and the projects in which Scrum was to be introduced were listed in a 2-week rhythm. And each team did a training, had an agile coach accompany them for 4 weeks at last. And after that, they started to switch back to their old ways of working. And for me, it was a tragedy. It was wasted time and wasted money. Absolutely. I was so frustrated. And agile means we want to work together differently, right? So everyone found their own way of working. Everyone has come to terms with their own team, with the team around them, also with the department, with the managers, and the previous ways of working and the structures in the company. And perhaps they have also come to terms with it, right? You get along with it, but when someone comes along and says, you have to behave differently starting tomorrow, and as follows, then perhaps that is not what we had hoped for, right? I hear the great phrase, if this is going to be the solution of my problem, then I want my problem back. more and more often in Agile transformations. So why? When we are in an Agile transformation, we like to, we like to do it voluntarily. Such a transformation cannot be compared to a software rollout. And yeah, when we have a closer look at it, maybe it looks like this. When we really change, we want to do, we don't change our clothes only. So I can easily change my clothes. I have not changed internally, but only superficially. And that's why I can take the clothes off and on again within a few seconds, right? And I can undo it without any problems. And I personally, as a person, have not changed as a result. And when I change at the core, like this, when I develop from a child to an adult, when I go through the different phases of life and develop further, then that is really a transformation. So we can also compare this to the Bouyon cube, like this. Or we can also compare to a tea bag. There are so many things in our lives that go exactly this way. We can, of course, put the tea bag or the bouillon cube from one cup to the next cup, and and to the next and to the next, and yet again change from black tea to fruit tea, and it doesn't matter. We can always undo that. But as soon as I dump hot water in, like this, right? Then I cannot undo it because the hot water goes into transformation. And that we know when something changes as its core, right? It goes through a phase where it is no longer in the old state, but not yet in the new state, right? And that phase in between is called liminality. Liminality. So the best known liminality is puberty. So the person is not longer a child, but also not yet an adult. And this time we try to accompany, right? We try to support that, but we don't want to be told by anyone how to behave and what to do. And and also in this phase of liminality, there's always a phase where, it's really, really hot water, or in puberty, there is always this phase where it's not so easy to touch, right? It's getting really, really hard. And that's always this very special thing with transformation. It's not so easy. There's always this very, very hard phase where you cannot do anything with it. It's just hard to carry on, right? And we don't want to be told by anyone how to behave and what to do. And through personal development, we want to develop ourselves. We want to be able to decide freely who we want to be, how we want to develop, and we want to arrange ourselves, right, with these new circumstances. So the core personal change is voluntariness. So what can we do instead? As an essential point, is not to impose the change, not to force the agile transformation, but to say, we invite you. We invite. You are cordially invited to inform yourselves, to participate. If you like, to see what interests you, what is suitable for your situation. You are invited to use the coaches, right? If you want to use them, right? And you are invited to try out the new agile methods, to learn them for yourself or not. what you think is necessary and also interesting for you. And by such an invitation, I don't mean an invitation like an Outlook invitation, because that is often more of a summons than an invitation, right? In German, it's a Vorladung, not an Einladung, right? That works pretty great. A real invitation is always voluntary, and I may decide myself without consequences about my participation. And the exciting thing is, as soon as someone is invited, they have to deal with the invitation. When I receive an invitation, no matter what, be it an invitation to a wedding, to a birthday party, to a game night, or a workshop on agile topics, right? I have to deal with it. What do I mean? So I have to think about it in my head, right? Is this something for me? Does it interest me? Do I want to deal with it? And just this decision-making process that goes on in my head, that I'm now responsible for deciding for myself. Do I do this or do I not do this? And in this way, I deal with it much more intensively than if someone comes and says, so you are doing this now, so you are joining, right? We will chew over everything for you, right? And you will go to a training session for today first, and then you are doing Scrum. Completely different neural networks are addressed, and the topics sit completely differently and much deeper in the brain if I have acquired them voluntarily. It depends on our own decision factors and motivators, because we ourselves decide to go along with it. Because if we cancel the whole thing, we can't say afterwards, you should have asked me, or I would have loved to be there, or I wasn't allowed to contribute my stuff, and after all, I declined the invitation myself, right? I declined it. So of course, if I'm going to be there, I want to be fully involved. I want to listen well and collaborate, participate. That is what what is expected of me as a participant. And an invitation ensures inner involvement in the topic, even before one even agrees to this appointment or to participate. And that is what opens people to be fully involved in the topic, to be open and to get involved in the agile transformation. So it is precisely these committed, motivated, capable people that we need to drive such an agile transformation forward. Everything else is wasted effort. And when consultants come in and have worked out something in the future, the teams will do all Scrum and they will do Safe, and we are now rolling out bit by bit, that often fails. And what I've seen so far in different companies is that many teams have put a lot of energy into fighting the change. The imposed agility, the imposed Scrum was argued away. You have no time, no resource, no budget. You have to concentrate on the next software rollout, or you don't feel capable of implementing the requirements of what the consultant said. And there were also managers here and there and who worked to ensure that these changes would not take place. And this energy and time in order to fight against this is working time, and it's lost, right? Time that we could have invested in working on ourselves and improving ourselves. And the 400 pages of dossiers that the consultants have created for us for a lot of money usually end up in the trash, right? So yeah, this is exactly what is important in agile transformation. So why we work intensively with open space agility. Some of you have already heard about it, I'm sure. This is an approach of Daniel Mazik. And yeah, I've brought a very brief description of it. And this is this. So let's have a closer look at this. So this means we all meet together on recurring basis here and here in open space events. That's why it's called open space agility, right? And in these open spaces, we reflect, we plan, we help shape what we want to do with regard to agility in the company. So yes, some of you may have already participated in an open space event, or you are doing it today. What a real open space is, it doesn't have any agenda in advance. You are invited a long time in advance. The open space has a motto and a sponsor who finances the whole thing, and usually from upper management. And all employees can come and fill the big agenda wall with their topics at the beginning of the day. And it doesn't matter how long a session is. If you can also offer a 4-hour workshop or a 10-minute short sharing session. Doesn't matter. Yeah, and when it's over, right? You can start a 4-hour workshop, and if you're done after 3 hours, you can stop there. And it doesn't matter if you want to ask a question, discuss something, share something, anything is perfect for the agenda that you care about. And anything is possible that comes to mind for this theme, right? And yeah, at the beginning, you have to create an invitation for the open space. You do a lot of marketing, coaching, and storytelling. And then you do the first open space. You create some experiments where you are working on. And then you're doing the next invitation for the next open space, right? And then you are regularly repeating it, right? You're doing it again and again and again. And out of every open space, there are these proceedings, these documentation of what you've discussed and what you've done. And you have also the coaches. And the coaches, they change at the end. So you're changing the coaches. Why are you doing that? You're doing that because you don't want them to be stuck with the coaches. You want them to create their own, right? I just reported on liminality. And when the old is not yet gone and the new is not yet there, the liminality is best accompanied with these rituals. And these rituals here are these open space events. Yeah, so open space is a rite of passage for the liminality of agile transformation. We are not agile overnight, but we are slowly moving to more and more agility. And that's why the open spaces are regularly repeated. And sometimes it feels like we've been in this state for so long and we are not moving forward at all. But that often happens when we don't regularly reflect on what we've already accomplished. And the open space is always about reflecting, reviewing what has been done, right? During the experiments from the last open space until now. Then to creating, to plan the next experiments, the next projects and ideas. And that is incredibly important in Agile Transformation. So where it's all about personal development, we can best perceive the further development of ourselves and our team if we divide the whole thing into consistent sections and regularly reflect on what has happened so far. So I've brought 3 examples. So let's have a look at the first example. So of course, an open space is not like the the unicorn brew cube, right? Among brew cubes, right? That always works. And yeah, even here, we sometimes have things that don't work or work particularly well. I've brought you 3 real-world examples of what happened in open space agility approaches that I was privileged to accompany. And I then report on open space activities in my own workplace. So I was in a pet food company, and they also kicked off a big agile transformation, first in the IT, online section and marketing. And here I was able to accompany the transformation for quite a while and help host the first open spaces. And everyone was incredibly interested and motivated and eager to get involved and to learn something. And at that time, we did the open spaces on site, and the room for them could only hold 40 people. 40 people, and everyone who was allowed to come who wasn't allowed to come was very frustrated. Only 40 people, there are always the same people sitting there, and always the ones who find out about it first, and that's not that's not fair. And yeah, it's sounds like a small thing, but actually it's an important small thing, because this fueled resentment in the organization that some felt excludes, and not all were equal. And that framework, we then realized how important it was to have a safe framework for that. So I like to use this umbrella, this protective umbrella, and one is allowed to experiment and to try to confirm one's hypothesis. You are allowed to think out of the box, right here, and out of you have to you're allowed to not follow daily life scripts, and you have a sponsor who is holding this umbrella, who is helping you to keep this umbrella open. You have opt-in participation. You have a timeline, a secure time where you can do and work and experiment under this protective umbrella. And you have some, influencers, team leaders who are, acting and making marketing about that. And it's very transparent. And that's very, very important. Everybody says, hey, we have the next agile topic, we are inviting you again. And it takes a lot of transparency. So therefore, there is this glass here over there. So it's important that everyone hears about it, that everyone has the possibility to get more information about it. And there was a change in leadership, and a department head who had put up a protective umbrella for the topic of Agile, he left. So the successor was not at all open to the topic and said, so, what are you doing with Agile? You have to perform first, right? So cut out the Agile nonsense and deliver performance and results in the new, in the next few months. And if that goes well, we can think again about the Agile approaches. And the open spaces, they are not happening for now. So with that, Agile Transformation was that, from one day to the next, and building up this umbrella like that and making sure it holds is incredibly important. It must not be boycotted by chance, or by personally changes. So it's one very, very important thing to have this protective umbrella, and to have some real life problems you can work on in an agile manner and be protected, right? So let's have a look at another case. There I was in a federal agency and had a lot to do with beliefs. And yeah, I really have to say by now, beliefs are like fortune cookies, like this one, like these over here. You break open the cookie and it says you can't work agile or new work approaches in a federal agency, right? And that's what the little pieces of paper says, and then it's set. That's what the little piece of paper says, right? So that's what the fortune cookie told me. And in a meeting in the transformation team, I brought some of these fortune cookies. And I said, so feel free to take one and open it. And yeah, what does it say? And then it says, you will make a new friend on your journey, or do others a favor and you will grow from it, or something like that, right? So do you believe it when it says that? No, of course not, right? It's just a fortune cookie. It's bullshit. And if someone now says in a federal agency, you cannot work in new work thinking, and an agile space doesn't work with our people, do you believe that? So in that context, it was a very, very good metaphor. It shook things up a little bit. And until then came, okay, let's try it out. And that's when I learned how much that's worth. When someone comes in and says, I believe this will work, trust it. We did that and invited to open space several times, actually, in an open space agility fashion on a regular basis. And it wasn't just about agile topics. It was mainly about aiming for new ways of working for employees and get from consulting activities to more, in the direction of coaching activities. And the employees participated incredibly well. And I also thought the managing director was really great. He came up to me afterwards and he said, so Miriam, I learned one thing today. I need more patience. And I said, oh, okay, that's exciting. Care to share more? Yeah, I noticed when you were standing up there in front and you introduced the agenda wall and you said, so now everyone can come forward and introduce their session and put it up. You stood there for minutes and didn't say a word until the first person went forward to put up a piece of paper. So he said, I would have flipped out by now. I would have hung up my own issues long ago and not waited that long at all. And when that died down again, and there were only 10 pieces of paper hanging there, 10 sessions, I would have called it off. And you said, no, there's still the possibility to come forward with some topics, with further topics. And when do you ever have the opportunity to discuss something with all your colleagues on board here together and to use the concentrated potential of all of them? And we wait a few more minutes for further sessions. And then you waited there again for 5 minutes until the next person came forward and didn't say a word until there were 15 sessions hanging over there. I would have cancelled it, he said. I would have forced the people to do my topics or I would have done all it by myself, right? So he said that would have been a great learning effect for him. Because then he did often feel he had to do everything by himself and he had to decide it himself as manager and executive director. And I have experienced it in many, many open space agility facilitations, that managers feel they have to do it themselves. Who maybe they don't have the patience as he now claimed to have, or maybe it's something else entirely that's behind it, right? So maybe it's just the belief that they have to model this, that is expected of them, or they believe my people can't do it, right? But that's all fortune cookies, right? That's fortune cookies. And what is needed at that point is the experience that employees can do it, and that in open space, they take the issues to their own hands, that they have great ideas, and that they themselves develop good things with their potential and make suggestions. Okay, so let's have a closer look at the third example. In the third example, I was on the road with a recruiter. And in preparation, we were allowed to hold an open space with the managers, only the managers. The statement was, if this goes well, then we can also invite the employees in the next step. But first, we will just do the executives. It was said right from the start that there might be a trap or two. So I found myself between some traps. They may not all have the confidence in what we are trying to do here, they said. They all have their own agenda and very rarely work together across the board, and they have their own issues. And we don't even know if there's going to be a community thing. We don't really know. So I said at the time that it doesn't matter. We can do an open space with a soccer stadium full of people who don't know each other, right? And something cool always comes out of it. So it will work this time. I was pretty sure of it. So the people come together. And it was a really, really great location. And it also immediately felt like creative work and not bureaucratic employment, right? And everyone was immediately on board and happy to finally be able to work on something together. And everyone got involved, and the agenda was packed and so full that we had to add additional meta plan wall. Some of them stood in the hallway for their sessions because there were not enough rooms. And in other words, it worked. But what happened then? There was so much enthusiasm in the room. So yeah, so many ideas. And at the end of the event, they had 36 new experiment ideas. Others would call it projects. And they wanted to do that. And we sat with the business leaders afterwards, CEO, CFO, CTO, and they were now to give their go or no go on what may be carried out. And yeah, they skimmed over the many suggestions, and they had very many ideas. Some of them also made like mini videos, like specially short presentations. And yeah, they clicked on it. They watched some seconds, clicked on the next video. And after half an hour, they said, okay, you may implement all of it. It's great. They are all great, right? At first, the enthusiasm was very, very huge. And then there came a wait. We already have over 300 projects that we are currently supposed to implement with our 70 people. So which of the over 300 projects can we cut for that? So there were more mousetraps. Yeah. Which of the mousetraps? Which of the over 300 projects can we cut? It was really, really hard, and the prioritization was attempted, but only sparsely implemented. And that time I had given the following advice. So stop starting, start finishing, finish what's already started first, and then, well, take a break and prioritize the issues we haven't started yet. And then they said, oh, we have already started all 300 projects. Okay, not so easy. Yeah, they thought it was very hard because the managers decided something, but then the employees or the middle management, they decided something totally different, and they didn't agree with the prioritization, and yeah, they thought something else was more important, and then actually they cut that. Unfortunately, there was no further open space because they said we already have enough ideas. We are not doing another open space. And I myself really like to work with metaphors. And again, that was really, really helpful in this case. We were talking about mousetraps. So yeah, what are you doing now? We switched on the light. Now you're seeing all the mousetraps. What are you doing? Are you going around? Can you leave something? Can you put them away? How do we clear the mousetraps away now? And yeah, with the mousetraps in our mind, we found some really, really good ideas how to remove them. And then we transferred them to the real situation and found some good ideas how to carry on with or without prioritization, and to ignore some mousetraps and just carry on. Okay, so I would like to tell you something about yeah, the Agile transformation I'm at the moment involved. So I have been employed in the group where I work today since 2017. And when I came there, I directly started with open spaces, and I told everybody about open space agility because I was a big fan. I heard about that while I was working in another agile transformation, and that was not so great. That was imposed agility, and yeah, I was a big fan of open space agility, so I told everybody. And I facilitated very much a lot of open spaces, and that was really great because it all came to it just went more and more and more. In the first open spaces were so great, and more people wanted me to facilitate an open space for them in their part of the company, in their team, in totally different business units. And also on totally different topics, on artificial intelligence, on cloud, on realigning new teams, and on talent management, and totally different things. And all the people were so interested in learning open space technology and open space agility that I had open space agility classes like all 3 weeks. And yeah, internally in the business unit where I currently work, the next open space will take place in the beginning of March. It takes place every 6 months, and yeah, there we will get together again. The open space is exactly where we complete the retrospective and review, and then we do the next planning together. and yeah, coaching, and we support the teams. And yeah, we also have a problem. One is the last open space awakened a completely different energy on the topic of agility. And before, it didn't receive that so many people were interested in the topic. And after the open space, it got more and more and more. And before, not as many asked me as afterwards if I could come to the teams and to the departments to present the topic. And our community in the whole group, which exchanges idea about agility and drives it forward in the whole group, it's all business units, they also use open spaces. And yeah, what is the biggest problem? It's an international company. Now we have the good opportunity to do our open spaces online, and that means it gets more and more and more people following our invitation, and they come to the open spaces. But very often they go out, or it's the end of the open space, and we don't have the experiments yet. Maybe you remember this one. They are experiments decided, ideas decided, but actually in our company, they like to go back to their teams with the ideas they have and the ideas what they wanted to do, but they don't want to decide in the open space because there are some people missing in the open space. So they are going back to their teams, talking to their teams about the ideas, and then they are deciding it in the teams what they wanted to do. And then they are coming back in the next open space, and they said, oh, we did a lot. We didn't know that we will do so much after the last open space, but we did a lot. Yeah. And yeah, in large corporation, I think it's the same at Deutsche Telekom, and like us, we are like a really big city. And you don't know exactly what's happening where. You can't prescribe the way of working that fits to all teams. It's just like in a city, each individual and each small or large team works together differently, right? The baker works differently than the painter, and the consultancy works also totally different. And it's the same in our conglomerate. Everyone works totally different. And it's so great that this is possible. And we are just choosing approaches, agile approaches, that fits to this. And if we start with something, we always know that it has to fit to all other teams that are also not working agile. One team is working with Scrum, and the next one is working with Kanban, and that has to fit, that has to work. So open space agility is the approach that can make our agile transformation successful. And it's based on opt-in participation and brings all employees together to collaborate and shape their future. And I like to send real invitations and use the great potential that arises when motivated, committed, talented colleagues like you all come together and work together. And yeah, I promise that I say something about why I like metaphors. And if you want to know more about why I like metaphors so much, it's because you have problem metaphors and solution metaphors. You have metaphors that are very, yeah, you have problems at work that are very clear, or solutions that are very clear. And it always helps if you use a metaphor to make it unclear when it's too clear, and to make it clear when it's too unclear, right? To irritate with the metaphor, to use totally different wording to get a totally different perspective. And that helps really, really much. And yeah, if you want to know more about it, just come to my open space session. And we will talk about that. And we will talk about your agile transformation and what works and what doesn't work. We will have a closer look at maybe some metaphors that could also help you if you're stuck in your agile transformation. Right. I'm now very keen on answering some questions and looking forward to what you've prepared.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam, for this really inspirational speech and lots of ideas. I mean, probably you couldn't follow in Slido, but the questions are exploding, basically. We will not have enough time to cover them all. But hey, folks, how about creating a session out of your questions if they don't get answered just right now? And I guess Miriam gave you some hints on how to do that. Yeah. To clean off your mind, participants, first, there's a lot of questions around your very nice presentation, Miriam, and we won't go into detail because it's so nice. Many of the people in the Barcamp gave some answers to that on how to do that, and it's to be found in the Miro board. So we won't elaborate on that, but we're going to go into the top-rated question first. Guys, if you put in a session, please put your name next to it so we know whom to talk to later, okay? Thanks. So the most pressing and top-rated question, Miriam, and I'll dive into it now, is how do you pitch the idea of open space agility to responsible persons?
So if I pitch that, I definitely start with imposing doesn't work. That's definitely how I start. I always start with that. And yeah, you can experience that in everyday life, right? If you want to change someone's behavior or mindset, imposing doesn't work. It has to be an invitation. It has to be opt-in. And that's the most important thing. And if you have that, it doesn't matter if it's open space agility or if it's something else. It has to be focused on invitation. And I think an open space is a really, really good thing. Why not start with an open space? You can change afterwards. And the second most important thing is that you make it a ritual, that you have something to accompany your colleagues, to give them something that is stable in the time where everything is so dynamic. And that's why open space agility is one opportunity to make something like a stability in the change, to make something a ritual in your agile transformation. And if you have open space agility, this book is not like 2 pages. It has a lot of ideas how to cope with different situations. And that's always very, very helpful. If you want to start somewhere, you can start here. And if you have different ideas, and I think open space totally fits to our company. Because we love to make brown bag sessions and community sessions here and there, and open space and this approach totally fits to our company. And I think that is important to get a feeling for your company. You have to experiment with things. And why not experiment with an open space? And then if the first open space is a hit, then take the next.
All right. Thank you, Miriam. Miriam, could you please show the book again in the camera? Somebody asked in the chat. That book, by the way, is also on the bookshelf on the mirror board. So have a look there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, the question of graphics is upvoted. So I'll say it again, as Eva just mentioned, the answer was in the chat. So if you scroll up the chat, you'll see it. Also, the answer is right below the session grid. You'll find 2 sticky notes, people. You can see the answer there. So moving on to the next question. How have you measured the success of the agile transformations you have been involved in?
How do you measure if someone is now a full adult? You say it's it's the date when he or she turns 18 or 21. I think it's very, very hard. And it's the same with an agile transformation. You never turn a real adult, right? And you never turn real agile, I think. But if you make open spaces ritually, regularly, then you can make something like a graduation, like you have it at school. And every graduation day, every open space day, you know what you have learned from the last open space until now, and you make it something like a graduation ceremony. For example, you can find a different agile transformation scales for making it like for having a metric for that. And sometimes companies ask me to rate their company, but I think it's the same like you have a child at school in, what is it? It's not the first school. I don't know how to call it in English. It's for the 6 to 12-year-olds, right? The first school, and then you're giving them their grades at the end of the school year, and they are like, I don't want to learn again. And this is so hard, and that's why you don't give children grades in the first classes. And that's exactly what I think is very, very important for the Agile transformation as well. Don't start with grades when they are just starting to learn and trying to get their first steps in Agile and making their first steps with Scrum or whatever. Don't make grades in the first classes. That's important, I think.
Also, Miriam, if I may add, as you mentioned, you use the metaphor of graduation in a school. Graduation may happen, but the learning never stops, right? I mean, that's at least should be the case, that, even if you have the degree, you shouldn't just stop learning because now you have the degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. All right.
And that's what we are all here for, to learn even more. Maybe we can do one or two questions even. There's another one saying, is transformation a one-way ticket, or is there any way back?
I think it's the same with every type of learning. If you've learned something and it becomes part of your core, this knowledge, you cannot forget, right? You can try to forget, but if you've learned something, it's really, really hard to forget it, right? Hopefully it's a positive learning and not a negative one. But you cannot forget what you've already learned. So whenever you learn something about agility and you have made your experiences with it, you cannot forget it anymore. It's like when you have your tea, you cannot put it again to a tea bag and hot water. You cannot separate it again. And that's the same with Agile transformation. It's a transformation in the core, and you cannot make it, you cannot, reverse it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So one last question, and then we'll go into a break. During the break, before I put the question here, during the break, people, go take a break, take a breath of fresh air, but also think on the sessions that are coming up. So feel free to offer a session. The remaining questions, maybe as Eva mentioned, you can get it answered there if you put in, your question as a session. Maybe somebody's interested in discussing that with you. Yeah. So moving on to the last question. At some point, you won't be able, the question says, at some point in time, you won't be able to complete the transformation without letting the last resisting staff go. Would you agree, or how would you approach it?
I think one thing is the invitation. Sometimes, they are invited and they don't want to follow your invitation. You can change the invitation. You can make the invitation easier to follow, right? So if you think let's do Scrum, maybe they say, okay, no, I'm not following your invitation. I don't want to do that. But if you say, okay, let's experiment with Scrum for 4 months, and after 4 months, we will have a look at it. And sometimes they say, okay, for 4 months, I can go with it. Okay, I will join it. And if they are not following, then it's an idea by Daniel Masick. He always says, cut it by half, ask for less, ask for 2 months, ask for, okay, not Scrum, but let's do regular planning and regular retrospective. Ask for less until they follow. And if they say, okay, I can join for that, then come with the next thing. If you're not asking for too much, and if they have the feeling, okay, they haven't said yes for the whole big thing, but you have come to them and going for less and less and less, they will feel, okay, now I have to opt in. Now I have to. They come so far to me, right? Steps and steps and steps towards me. Now I have to come some 1 or 2 steps to them and help them and say yes. And I think there's always a way like that. And you will find a way, and you don't have to let people leave because they don't want to follow that. They always have good reasons, and it's always good to find out why.
That is brilliant. That's like a combination of negotiating technique with opt-in. That's really, really good. Wow. Ask for less. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So with that, we'll close the Q&A session here. Everyone, the questions that have not been answered, as mentioned a couple of times now, please feel free to offer a session. I think Miriam, are you planning to do a session as well? Right.
Yes.
So there will be a session from Miriam as well in the session grid. You'll see that. Awesome. Thank you very much, Miriam. And now we will take an 8-minute break.